Hey, I'm Noel. I'm the editor of enduro.media, and welcome to episode 4 of the Enduro Bureau podcast. With me are my partners in crime, Courtney Schmalley. Hi, Courtney.
Hello, everybody.
Did you do any kickboxing today?
No kickboxing today. I trained at the gym and then got some flat tires on my van. So that was an event and got that fixed. And then we went to the track and I got stuck at the track on my way driving down there. So Jared had to pull me out with his truck.
Two-wheel drive, let me tell you.
That's amazing.
So
And Jared Stock, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. We just finished a couple-hour dirt bike ride before this next snowstorm comes, so I'm feeling happy that I got to spend some time on the bike. Well, most people are down south training. It's good. Get what I can.
Yeah, and I mean, it's already snowing here in Calgary, so I don't know how much you guys are going to get, but
we don't want it.
Yeah,
it's awful. I hate it. So, another great guest this week. We have got a kind of, I would say, a legend from the off-road community here in Canada. I think it's very fair to say that. This is a man who's got 20 plus years of racing experience in events like you may have heard of, just little ones, like Red Bull Romaniacs. Got a top 10 overall. Last Man Standing, International 6 Days Enduro, the Earsburg Radio. Yeah, it's a great station. You should check it out. Earsburg Rodeo, AMA Enduro Cross recently, and I'm not sure how many times, the World Vet MX Championships. He's the promoter and director of a pretty major event and events leading up to that. You may have heard of little things like Red Bull Roots and Logs, Red Bull Outliers. He's the owner of Rad 2.0, a race and athlete development business here in Alberta. He is a loving husband, I am reliably informed. A father of two pretty excellent kids, again, reliably informed. I vouch for those kids. They're awesome. And, hey, it's Shane Cuthbertson. Hey!
What an introduction.
That's the longest introduction we've had.
Yeah.
It's a sign of, this guy is pretty awesome. And he's been very supportive of what I've been trying to do. So I'm really excited to have you on, Shane.
Right on. Well, thank you. I mean, if you've been around as long as I have, you can build the accolades and all that kind of stuff. So, it's a pleasure. I'm super stoked you guys are doing this. I think it's awesome for the sport, especially in Canada. It's real hard to, kind of let people know what's happening here in Canada. So I think that's fantastic. And then just highlighting what Canadians are doing internationally and that, we have some wicked riders and some awesome enthusiasts throughout the country. And it's really cool that you guys are able to highlight that. So,
yeah, no, I think it's something we've enjoyed doing. It's not always going to be Canadians. We want to be talking about our, North America and around the world. But hey, start where we're comfortable, right? And maybe where we know best.
For sure.
Yeah, one of the things we always like to do is just maybe introduce yourself and, tell us a little bit about, your business, what we need to know about Shane Cuthbertson.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listening to the couple of podcasts you've done, this is always the awkward stage.
Totally.
Where you have to kind of pump yourself up and talk about yourself. And, but yeah, for me, I actually started out BMXing when I was younger, and that kind of got the competitive spirit in me. Rose through the ranks pretty quickly doing all that, and then just completely burned out on it when I was like 12 years old. So, which is weird to burn out at 12 years old, but it happened. So took some time off that and decided I need to get back on two wheels again, and asked the parents, hey, I think I'd like to have a dirt bike. And from that time, as soon as I slung a leg over a dirt bike, that's basically been it for me. I've been a massive enthusiast. I can't really go a minute in my days without thinking about dirt biking and riding and all the good things that come about that. So yeah, 35 years later, here we are. So it's been a good ride.
Was it much of a negotiation with your parents to get that first dirt bike?
No, it was really good. And I still remember it. It's crazy. Like, talked him into getting me this bike. My dad bought one. We went to pick it up, and we had like this massive snowstorm in Calgary the day that we went to pick it up. And I feel like it's like in the 80s. I'm not great with timelines, but yeah, the next day, like, the house is covered in snow. Nobody's going anywhere. It was like an apocalyptic event, and it made it real easy to remember my first dirt bike buying experience. And so yeah, that was super. And they've always been super supportive, and still, I'm 48 now. My parents are still super supportive, believe it or not. I don't know if it's embarrassing or not to say that, but yeah, my mom loves coming to all the events and supporting myself and the kids, and so yeah, it's been great. For me, it's a way of life, and yeah, just growing up camping and hanging out with family, and now I've passed that on to my family as well, and still having them involved. It's really a special place.
That's a common theme we've really heard about, and that's one of the things that's actually come up with a few people is, those memories of family early on, and like how this sport lends itself to that whole like community experience and camping and road trips all the time and being together.
Yeah, I think we all call it kind of the grassroots of the sport, and you see it, especially I'm an off-road guy, so I would say I always really connect with that when I go to a motorcycle event and an off-road race, and everybody's out camping and spending time with their friends and family, and you see all the little ones riding and then the parents riding and racing. But I even see it at any event, like whether I'm at a motocross event or a trials event or anything like that. It seems like it's something that really connects everyone, and it kind of becomes this really cool, close knit community because we can kind of all relate to the feelings and the experiences we had. So it's really fantastic in that respect.
How's that in comparison for you guys, Jared and Courtney?
I think, as far as for myself, it was definitely growing up on the little farm, and we had like little tiny dirt bikes that we just putzed around in, and nothing wild or crazy, but the camping was definitely a huge thing for us. Did lots of camping and got into quads, but it wasn't really until I was quite a bit older where I really started getting into dirt biking. I mean, by quite a bit older, I guess like 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, for sure, it's always been that as well. I mean, every single event I've ever raced growing up was a trip. We always made a trip out of it, and that's when you spend the most time with your family doing it, and the most time with my friends at that time. So, yeah, definitely can relate that to the same experiences.
So how did it progress for you, Shane? Like moving from getting a dirt bike to, hey, maybe I want to race this sled.
Yeah, it happened pretty fast, actually. Like, at first it was just going out with my dad and friends, just kind of trail riding, and then the competitive spirit came back in, that I had developed while I was, from 3-4 years old riding BMX. And so eventually, you feel that need to challenge yourself and see where you stack up. And I progressed through the ranks pretty quick, I would say. I turned pro when I was 17, and yeah, I did pretty well. I had good ability, but I didn't have a whole lot of what would we say here? Let me see. I was 17, so girls came into the picture, and partying and all that other stuff kind of came into the picture. So I didn't have, there were some issues that kept me probably from reaching my full potential, but I loved it. I met all of my best friends that are still my best friends during that time period. and had so many awesome experiences. So yeah, that happened. And then throughout that time period, ended up having a relationship with my now wife, having kids. And so I kind of took a little bit of a different path than most people would, and took some time off, and actually kind of really ended up getting back into dirt biking in around that when I was 28. And once I did that, once we had our first boy Chase, I was quite out of back in the day when I was, looser. Let's say that. I was quite overweight. I was smoking. I was drinking a lot, and kind of enjoying my teenage years. My intro into adulthood and responsibilities and stuff like that, and so maybe didn't handle that as well as I wish I would have at this point in time. But anyways, it is what it is. But when Chase was born, I'm like, yeah, I got to get my shit together. So I lost, 50 pounds. I quit smoking. I got in really good shape, and I went and I'm like, yeah, I think I just want to go try another race. And so I went there, and I ended up winning the pro class. And I was like, well, that was weird because that never happened before. And that was really easy. So yeah, right from there, the spark was kind of lit again, and raced like regionally in Alberta for a couple of years, and then met a good friend of mine, basically my best friend now, is Lee Freiberger, and he's like, hey, dude, you should do some. You've kind of conquered the local scene. You should do some international racing. And he talked me into doing 6 days. I know that's close to Jared and Courtney's heart, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I went to my first 6 days in Slovakia in 2005, and
wow,
yeah, I just was like, oh, I'm awesome. I'm gonna kick ass. And then I wrote it, and I'm like, I suck. I have a lot of work to do. I need to be better, and that just sparked that inner competitor in me, just to be like, okay, I have work to do, and I'm going to go after it. And so I did. And I went back to 6 days in 2006 in New Zealand, and did much better there. And then, yeah, kind of got on, riding with some good support now, and ended up dabbling my feet in extreme hard enduro, which was super, super new at that time, and did fairly well at competitions like, well, I never did good at Erzberg. It was always had my number, but I did have 2 really successful outings at Red Bull Outliers. I did last man standing and ended up 6th there. And then, yeah, just kind of progressed from there and continue to kind of follow, like, wherever we could get the most coverage was really what we were doing. The most coverage and the most support, and ended up going back to 6 days again in 2013 to finish off some unfinished business, which was always trying to get a gold medal was my goal. And I ended up doing that in 2013. Was still racing a lot regionally and stuff like that. And then as my kids were growing, I just kind of, they started riding dirt bikes, and I kind of just kept in it. Like I am super thankful that I did, because a lot of top racers kind of fall off at the end of their careers, and I just did it for fun, to be with my kids and have the experiences like we're talking about, camping and going to local races and stuff like that. So yeah, I just kept on riding, and here we are. I'm still kind of doing the same thing, following my kids around. If they're there, I'm going to go racing, and I'm going to support them while they're racing. And I still do it myself, and kind of do every discipline I can possibly do on 2 wheels. So yeah, it's been one heck of a ride for sure.
That's amazing. And just for people who don't know, with ISE, when you talk about a gold medal, that means you're within 10% of the overall winner of the class.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
10% time.
Yeah. And Yeah, it's over a long time, so it's a really tricky thing to do, and yeah, that was something like, I had got silver medals, which is, I think back then it was like you had to be within 30% of the leader's time. And that just didn't sit with me well. I'm like, no, I got to be within the top 10. I got to be within that top 10%. And so that was my goal, and I ended up getting that done, and kind of put the check mark on that bucket list item.
That's amazing. So 2013 was Jared's first ISDE, and if I know you've been listening, and you know his story of like, I'd love to go race bikes in Italy, and then Google what ISDE is. Do you have any memories of Mr. Stock at that ISDE?
Yeah, I remember him. I remember him there. Just loose, fun, young, kind of dumb because he didn't really know what he's getting into.
Still dumb.
And I was super stoked to beat him. That was the main thing there. I remember, like, this hot motocross kid coming in to show the off-road guys how it's done, and I'm pretty sure I took Jared down. I'm pretty sure. So I mean, I was stoked on that, but it was really cool that event ignited Jared's passion for 6 days, and now he's like, such a huge ambassador for that particular event in the sport. So it's really rad to kind of see how that progresses.
Shane probably regrets kicking my ass at that 6 days because he doesn't know from that day forth. I'm like, I'm going to kick this guy's ass from here on. And so I set my new goal.
Right.
And it didn't work out, but I mean,
I was going to ask, so is that happened yet?
I don't know. We haven't really raced each other in a while.
No, it's been a while.
We should set up a little head-to-head thing.
I'm in. We did spend some time together at the Corduroy Enduro on the same minute.
That is true.
We were in different classes, but
he was much faster than me, but he was still dumb, and he was missing, like, course markings and turns and stuff like that. So the veteran experience that I have still kind of showed true there, I think.
Do you remember in that one test that I somehow at the Corduroy, you started you're the minute ahead of me, I think, right? And you started your minute, and then I started right after, or was it the other way around? I can't remember, but I went in to make a pass, and I passed you, and then I somehow blew off the course and went and rode a whole different loop, and then I caught up, and I was like, wait a minute. I said, I already passed Shane in this test once. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
I thought you cheated, but I just got lost.
Yeah, man. Sometimes that experience pays off. I mean, you don't got to be the fastest guy to win. You got to be the most consistent and smart.
I passed you twice in one test, and you still beat me by 35 seconds.
I feel like Shane is more likely to be a successful rally racer than you would, Jared.
I know where my footing lies. I'm not going to do that anytime soon.
Oh man. So, you're talking about your kids racing, and they're both pretty good. You want to talk a little bit about those guys?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why I'm still in this whole thing. And Chase is my oldest boy. He's 21 now, and he's been racing since he was like 4 years old. And he's super passionate about it, and a fantastic rider. Obviously, both my kids are like super. They're really tall, so anybody that kind of sees us together is weird because they're towering over me. But he's a super smooth rider, very calculated. Just got a love for the sport, and he's a fantastic kid. And then my youngest boy, Cal, he's a little bit more aggressive than Chase. Really likes moto, so he had a good run at moto last year. We've been to Walton a couple times with him, and he's going to try his hand at pro motocross this year and see how he fares. So Yeah, both really good riders, and the thing that I like about it most with them is that like I don't really get to hang out a whole lot with like my buddies, like my friends that I made while I was riding, who are all like super like really good top tier riders, even in their 40s 50s, like they're unbelievable riders. But I don't get to spend that much time with them anymore because I'm like, well, I'm just going to go ride with my kids, because we're all basically the exact same level, and it's just so easy, So yeah, I'm really trying to prolong that as much as I can because I've got this fear of kind of losing them and losing touch with them a little bit, and the more time I get to spend with them and ride with them is better for me and makes me happy, and it's really really sweet that we can go out and just kind of ride like buddies, and here they are, just my kids. It's something that I'm super thankful for.
Well, I know Cale does get a little pissed off at you sometimes racing at the spring and fall series here in Calgary at Wild Rose MX, and if you beat him, I know he doesn't like it.
Yeah. I know he doesn't like it. He doesn't like it much, but
competitive.
It doesn't happen very much. But if I have a good day, I mean, I can still put it there. So I can still put it to him. So yeah.
Those boys are savages.
Yeah.
In the line of competition, at the Alex Sprint Enduro, we had a fun race at the end of the day. And Shane, I don't think you made that one.
No, I wasn't there.
You were out sleeping in the woods somewhere.
Yeah.
And we can talk about this sleeping in the woods story if you'd like sometime.
For sure.
Absolutely.
We were literally like, Shane would rather go sleep in the woods with a bunch of dudes than come race our race. We're offended. But anyways, your kids were there, and we had a fun relay race at the end of it, and they were on separate teams, but it just so happened to be at the end of this relay, like lap for lap, each person was like the right speed to make these two like end up battling for like just for fun relay race. And we thought their banter was like this, hey ho ho, we're having a good time. And Charlotte's like, no, like I'm actually very concerned right now because they were like going at it. And he's like, I'm gonna take you out. And I'm like, good one. He's like, no, he will. Like, don't.
Yeah. No, that still comes up on a regular basis for sure. There's still bantering back and forth. But it's really cool. Like, they're such awesome, they're good people, they're good kids. Of course they have the brotherly competitive thing going on, but yeah, I mean, I really enjoy, even if they're bitching and complaining at each other back and forth, like it's something special for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back.
Hey guys, Courtney here with SOR Enduro Racing. Get in on all the action at our SOR race events this season as we bring new opportunities for racers and businesses who are looking to expand and promoting their brands. Pit row packages are front row and in the action with quick, easy access to the starting gates. Ensure that your business and your sponsored racers have the necessary, well-organized, and professional setup where your brand will be in the eyes of all spectators and racers. Might you have your own personal, friends, or family race team, this can also be an opportunity for you. Limited spots are available, so contact us for more information and reserve your pit row spot today.
And now, back to the show. You've had these experiences racing, and then at what point did you start thinking like, hey, I'd like to put on a race? And what were you thinking, like that was just something you could do to give back, or was that something you had in mind to like, hey, maybe I can build a business around it?
Originally it was just trying to kind of bring our experiences that we had. And when I say we used to have this team called the Corner Grass Racing Team, and it was, Lee Freiberger was kind of heading up, and a couple of other friends of mine that followed me all over the world, and we kind of traveled everywhere and anywhere. they were just basically my support crews. And when we were going to these events, we're like, oh my God, like this is incredible. Like, why don't we have anything like this in Canada? Like we need to bring it, and so that was really the genesis of it. We did an event in 2010 and 2011 called Extinction at the same place that Red Bull Outliers is now. And it was a hard enduro, and it was like the first of its kind sort of in Canada, and one of the first ones in North America. And we were just kind of trying to bring that whole concept and the idea behind it and check out this really sweet riding spot that we had and that we knew was something special. So that's how it kind of started out. And then, like most organizers and people that are kind of volunteering, we burnt out real quick on that one because it takes a ton of effort to put in. So yeah, that kind of went away. And then I just kind of went back to racing again, and was doing some enduro cross in the States. And I was like, man, I need somewhere to like practice. Like enduro cross is such a specialized sport where, we used to think it was okay just to go in the woods where we normally ride and hit a few rocks and logs, and that's good, and really it wasn't, because it was on a close course that was a minute long and your heart rate's maxed at 200 the whole entire time. So I ended up talking Wild Rose Motocross into allowing me to build a track kind of in a lower desolate area of the park that was there at the time, and built the track and just started training there and having fun, and people were riding it, and had an awesome group of volunteers that came and helped me do all that. And then, yeah, Red Bull calls me up just out of the blue one day and says, hey, like we were there for a KTM demo. We seen this like really sweet track that you built. Would you be interested in doing an event? And I'm like, yes. So that's where it started. Basically, it was just kind of luck of the draw for me. And 7 years later, we had done seven versions of what we used to call Rocks and Logs, Red Bull Rocks and Logs at the Calgary track. And we had kind of like everybody from Cody Webb to Manny Lattenbickler to Colton Haker. Like we brought them all in, and we had a fantastic run at it. So that kind of got me kind of working. Initially it was kind of volunteering, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, like this is getting pretty big, taking a lot of my time. And eventually I decided, hey, I kind of need to build a company to support this effort that I'm putting in. And then Red Bull said, hey, like we're done with Rocks and Logs. Do you want to do another event with us? And I'm like, hell yeah. So they're like, well, we're thinking about like a hard enduro event. And that's where kind of we started working on Red Bull Outliers and developed the concept and kind of worked through it and figured it out. And so, yeah, we ended up doing Red Bull Outliers for a couple of years, and then ended up getting into the World Championship calendar. And yeah, here we are. Just I'm like promoter extraordinaire, I guess, for one event of the year. It takes a lot of my time, but I'm super passionate about it. I love it, and it's kind of part of me, So yeah, no, it's been quite the adventure.
How did that start out? Was that Red Bull Canada you were working with at first, and then it progressed, like as you moved into hard enduro, it moved into Red Bull writ large?
Yeah, it was sort of just kind of their regional offices that got in touch, like the Alberta field teams. They're like they do a lot of small events and they support it. And so you'll go to a lot of events, you'll see Red Bull arches and you'll see some product and stuff like that. And that's their way of supporting it and just kind of getting their brand out there, but supporting, events, because like just the brand itself carries a ton of weight. As soon as you hear Red Bull or Monster or anything like that, right away it's pretty serious. So they like to do that, on a smaller scale, and they support a lot of events in the region. And then, so that was Red Bull Rocks and Logs, and it started to really catch the attention of Austria and the upper management at Red Bull Canada, and so when they wanted to go, bigger and better, a new events manager came into Canada, was super passionate about hard enduro and had done some in South America, and right from that point in time, we headed off, and we were, that's the Red Bull Outliers concept came along, and I mean, within a couple of months, we had put the event together and executed the first version of it, um, and we just continue to grow and build on that, and they're super supportive of it, and that's coming from that's kind of now the national program for Red Bull. They do 4 or 5 events a year, and we're lucky enough to have Red Bull Outliers on their docket. So
and then the transition to the event, obviously it was a quality event. And when did the discussion happen about moving it onto the FIM calendar start?
I think it was part of the business plan right from the get-go. It was kind of to establish the event and have it on the calendar within 3 years, and that's exactly what we did.
Wow.
Those were the goals. The Hard Enduro World Championship was new when we first started bringing Red Bull Outliers to Canada, and so we kind of went on plan. I had quite a few connections from my previous life as competing in events, and so I knew a lot of the key players, and we were able to kind of put all the pieces together and make it happen. So it was like, for me, it's like a dream come true. So
there was a great moment in the Red Bull production from the 2023 Outliers event with Michael Walkner talking, and he said that when he first came in 2022, that they were driving out there. And for those who don't know, it's, when you think about Alberta and you think about hard enduro, like you would think mountains, right? It's not. It's the Badlands. It's prairie with this big, canyon in the ground. And it was a great little thing from Michael Walkner saying, like, he's like, I'm driving out here, and he's like, I don't understand, like, how are we going to have a hard enduro out here? And then he drove down into the valley, and and all of a sudden he was like, oh.
Yeah, and that was really, that was why we have Red Bull Outliers, actually, is because of the unique location. And a lot of people find it really hard to understand because, I mean, we're in Canada. We have like fantastic off-road riding in the mountains. Like, we have more space and, gnarly stuff that is like the core of hills, rocks, roots, rivers, ravines. The thing that the difference with that is that so does Romania, and so does Serbia, and so does Italy, and so does anywhere. Everybody has those features, right? So when we were able to kind of bring this, when we were able to bring this unique landscape to the table, they were just like, wow, like this looks like we're riding on Mars. Like, this is insane. Like, so that's really what ended up kind of, making it happen, is that it's such a unique landscape. It's way different than anything you think of in Canada. But that was really the pinpoint where we were able to sell it to them, going, hey, like, we have something unique here. It's something you've never seen before. It's super spectator friendly. It's all closed course. It's private land, which is another issue we have in Canada, is trying to get on public land and using that. We don't have to deal with any of that mess. So everything kind of just fell in place. And I think it, like when I look back at it and I kind of look at the highlights and I watch Red Bull TV, I still, maybe I'm biased, but I think it's one of the best covered hard enduro events that there is in the calendar. And it's just because of the unique aspects of the land that we're using.
For sure. I mean, when you say that it's spectator friendly, I mean, it really is. Like, it's like a natural stadium, and it's spread out, so you've got there's like 2 or 3 kind of stadium options for you to go to. but there's the one main area, and you can stand down there and have a great time all day and watch, these incredible riders do their thing. And I think it's very different from a lot of the other major events where it's, in the woods and it's great and it's beautiful and it's hard and all these great things, but you can't see it the same way as you can at Outliers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, for people that have never been there in person and maybe watched on TV or heard about it, like literally the land plot that we're on is like 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers. Like it's really small. That would be 1.6 miles. For I think if my calculations are correct.
Math is hard.
I could be missing that, but I mean it's not a big spot. But I mean we're weaving in and out of all these ravines and really trying to use the land to its best potential, and a lot of our forethought in planning the event is so that we can get spectators and people to actually be able to see it, because I've been to lots of hard enduros, and if you go to Erzberg, for instance, you get to see 1, maybe 2 elements in the whole time you're there. So Romaniacs is the same way, and some of the other big events are the same way. They're really spread out, and it's kind of it's that's an adventure in itself trying to get to the checkpoints. I know Jared and Courtney probably understand from 6 days, but yeah, like for the person that's not used to commuting and trying to figure out where the next place to watch is, we try to bring it to the point where it's like, hey, like here's a map. These are the spots you should be in. We got a bus that'll take you there. You got to bring your hiking boots, do a little bit of walking, and you're going to see the most incredible stuff that you've ever seen in your whole entire life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just crazy. Like for me covering it last year, it's funny, like, yeah, there's a bus, and I did end up taking advantage of it a little bit, but holy, like it's a small area. But if you want, you can see so much of the race. And that's what I was doing. I was chasing around. Like that was probably my biggest hiking day in years, coupled with like, a backpack full of gear and all that stuff. It was awesome though. Like, just incredible.
I brought, I've only actually ever been there one time to watch, and I brought my e-bike. Now I was going to laugh at everybody and e-bike around. And then
you got flat tires.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
But the guys at KTM were chasing Tristan around, got flat tires on their e-bikes. So I was so nice, and I gave up my e-bike for Matt to ride around. So I watched from the closest spot because I was on my way to the airport actually to go to 6 days. So I just popped in to say hello and rented out my bicycle.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cactus out there.
Yeah, it's a gnarly area for sure.
And snakes, man. Like I on the track walk day on the Thursday, race was Sunday, I was out and hiking around with some of the big names, and it was amazing. But I went off on my own, and I was standing at the on the backside of the final climb, just kind of looking for some angles and things like that. And I heard a noise behind me in the rocks, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, rattlesnake. And I started running downhill. And as soon as I started running, I was like, this is a terrible idea. It's so slippery there. And I couldn't stop and smashed a lens. And I was like, oh my God.
We have many rattlesnakes that live here in Medicine Hat, like on the track, and have almost ran over them a few times.
I thought you were going to say you did see a snake out there, and I thought maybe you mistake that for Phil running around with his pants off.
True story, though, right, Jared? I mean,
it's not impossible. Fantastic. I like that we got a Phil shot in today.
I mean, honestly, Phil's going to be famous from this podcast. All the drops you guys have had, and
so vulnerable. He won't be able to defend himself.
Yeah. Severe entertainment. Amazing. And then from that, you've kind of, I mean, in working with the FIM Hard Enduro Championship, you went to Xpania last year, and you've gone over and kind of consulted, I guess. And maybe talk a little bit about that experience as a promoter.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, it's always nice to see something different, and work with a different organization. And when we actually awarded Red Bull Outliers, myself and Red Bull went over and just watched Hispania. It was the next one kind of on the calendar, and we're like, yeah, cool, let's go. Um, so we went over and watched it in I don't know if it was maybe 2021. And then, yeah, just through working with the team, the Hard Enduro guys, they invited me to come do some track layout and inspection work last year. So went over and worked with that team, and yeah, it was a fantastic experience. Like, it's always good to see how other people do it and kind of learn and grow and meet, other promoters and kind of get a sense of like, hey, like, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And we're just trying to, that's basically just trying to be better, bring more to the riders, bring more to the spectators. And so yeah, I was really thankful for that opportunity.
So Jared, you'd probably say that he was over there baselining an event.
Exactly. No, benchmarking.
Benchmarking. Sorry, that's your word. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
my bad.
yeah.
Fantastic. And then, over the years too, you've put together this company, Rad 2.0. And
yeah,
tell us about that.
Yeah, no, kind of my, I've been searching for a long time to try to figure out, how to kind of share my passion with other people and how to have it involved with my passion, which is motorcycles and dirt biking. And yeah, I never could quite piece it together until, the Red Bull events came around, and then I had the opportunity of doing a little bit of coaching with Chris Birch, who's a friend of mine that I knew from racing, hard enduros in the past. And so yeah, kind of put it together, kind of try not to put all my eggs in one basket. So I ended up, Rad 2.0 stands for race, which is all the events that I do, and athlete development. So ended up kind of doing a lot of coaching and working, trying to figure out how best that all worked. And so yeah, now 4 or 5 years into it, have a fairly successful coaching business. The focus is on, pretty much anybody and everybody. Um, I coach kids from 4 years old to, adults that are 65 years old, and all different facets. And so yeah, that's been a great thing, and I've been able to share that with my kids as well. They help me out doing that. So yeah, it's something I kind of went all in on last year, especially with Red Bull Outliers. It takes quite a bit of my time, and then all in kind of on the coaching aspect of it. And so yeah, things are trucking along and doing really well. And on occasion we bring in other high end coaches, like when he's sitting there. You can't see him on video, obviously, the people are listening, but Mr. Jared Stock, he's been helping me out. And so yeah, no, it's been, I'm super stoked on it. In a way, for me, it's just a nice way to give back to the community that's given me so much. And I really love the coaching aspect of it, just watching people and teaching them little things. Like, I'll never forget, like, I'm sure Jared has the same experiences. You would teach somebody that's been riding for forever, a high level athlete, and, you just kind of shooting the shit with them, and they're like, man, what? I never thought about it that way, or I never even thought about setting my bike up that way. And there's just so much knowledge, and every different person it comes to across differently. So Jared could say one thing to you, Noel, hey, like, you need to do this when you're cornering, and I could say another thing, and it would totally resonate differently. So that's what I really enjoy, is just seeing those aha moments. And that, like, as soon as I see that aha moment, it's totally worthwhile, and very gratifying.
Totally.
My partner Jody says she's got to tell me something 10 different ways for me to have that aha moment.
Yeah.
She's not wrong.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and that's part of the challenge, right? So, and you find that in coaching, not everybody's the same, and you just can't have the same dialogue. You have to learn to and adapt, and that's part of the challenge of it. And I think as competitors, we're always up for a challenge to try to figure out what the right fit is for that particular individual. So.
Yeah, and I love that whole.
I can vouch for that. Sorry, before we move topic, because I remember having coaching from you, Shane, and just the techniques and the different approach you took to your coaching was like you were able to just almost bring out a whole different rider and just teach me techniques that I wouldn't have even thought about, or being able to apply them and how we were able to communicate through headset. I thought that was game changing. It's one thing to take videos of someone in a dress and see where to change body positioning, but it's like you were able to communicate that through on the trail while we were riding, and I could make those changes instantly, and then just applying it that way was so awesome. And I would say to all my friends, I'm like, if you haven't had Shane as a coach, you're missing out, because it was some of the best coaching I ever had. And not to say that Jared isn't a great coach, because obviously
I'm not saying nothing.
because you guys have very similar coaching styles. And so I was very thankful for that. And going to a couple of your sessions, and it just makes us so excited to be able to have you on board the SOR season, taking charge of the youth development program, because they're definitely going to get a lot out of your coaching.
Yeah,
Why don't you guys talk a little bit about that? And I know that's something that we want to keep coming back to on this show is athlete development and developing, bringing up the kids and the next generation. So why don't you guys talk a little bit about the partnership with SOR Enduro Racing and Rad 2.0?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from my side, I really liked, even though I didn't get to many events, my kids were off the charts as far as competing in the SOR series last year. A lot of my close friends are the same way. And so I think I only got to one event last year just due to other conflicts, but, I really believe in it. I know, right? But then again, Jared, I mean, I didn't want to take the championship away.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I was playing possum.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nobody was going to beat me last year because I needed to make sure I took home the pro payout for the pro class. We couldn't afford to pay anybody else. So
yeah, no, I mean,
just kidding.
No, Jared is definitely a few levels above my abilities, and rightfully the champion of the series last year for sure. But yeah, I kind of just seen what they were doing. I was super excited to try to get the sport of the racing in Alberta, because I've been to a lot of events internationally in the US, and just seeing like small things that could be changed, and with talking with Jared and Courtney, and they were all over it because they've seen the same things. And so for me, I was without Red Bull Outliers happening this year, which is a little bit of a bummer. I know everybody's super bummed about it, but I'm like, okay, well, I have some time now on my hands, and I can put my expertise and my support and help them out, build the series. And so that's really where it came from. And then the coaching aspect obviously is part of my business, and I guess more importantly, just my passion. So yeah, we were able to team up, and providing a lot of back end support to this series, and we want to grow the kids segment, which I think is basically the beginnings of everything, right? And something I'm very passionate about. I know Jared and Courtney are as well, and we're like, cool, like let's focus more on this. And so I'll be helping them out with all the kids races this year, and we'll be putting on some riding sessions on the Fridays before the events while everybody's there. And really just trying to up the ante a little bit as far as racing in Alberta goes.
Yeah, we're super excited. I know we have lots of friends and are excited to get their children more involved and have that one-on-one and preparation for the racing as well, because it can be intimidating too. So the kids are excited to have that coaching ahead of time, getting them prepped for race day.
Yeah, it works really good in the sprint enduro format as well. I mean, even the cross country format, it works okay, but it's really cool for people to be able to come before the event and kind of get a preview of what they're going to be up against. Yeah. And especially with young kids, like a lot of them are intimidated. They're not real sure about it. And if you give them the opportunity to go out and give it a little bit of a tryout, here's what the track looks like. This is how it's going to kind of be. It takes a lot of that anxiety down beforehand and brings the fun back into it. Like, yeah, okay, now I'm excited. I'm not scared anymore. I'm excited to go do this, and let's get at it and teach them a few skills is going to make it even that much more fun. So yeah, I think it's a win-win all around.
That's one of the cool things about the sprint format is that it helps take the pressure off the young riders because they're not racing. Of course you're racing other people, but you're not racing them on the track. You're racing the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it can be intimidating. I mean, if you go to a motocross race, like you watch a gate drop, like it's intense, and I can see, I know I've coached quite a few kids from all different sides of it, off-road, motocross. But when you're lined up against that many kids, there's a lot of noise going on, so much excitement, tension, parents everywhere, like it's intimidating, 100% for sure. So taking that out of the equation, I think just makes it a better experience to start off with. And then the kids can decide, yeah, you know what, like I do want to go after it. I want to get on a gate with 30 other kids, that doesn't bother me. Or there's a lot of kids that are just like, man, like even I teach a lot on electric bikes and that calms kids down quite a bit as well. Mm-hmm. And then they get on gas bikes and they're petrified again, so it's every kid's different. And I think, being able to do the sprint format, it takes away a lot of that intimidation, and kids can come out on electric bikes or gas bikes or whatever it is, whatever makes it work for them. And that's what we need to really, continue to focus on, is just getting the kids on the bikes, have fun. Like it's such a wicked sport. We could talk another hour about what you learn and what it brings to you as a person. But yeah, I mean, it's great that Jared and Courtney have this platform now that we can do this and really start to bring up some young kids and let them have fun at it.
Agreed. 100%.
I just want to quickly touch on too, before we move on to a little bit more in terms of athlete and race development. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with Gas Canada, because I know it's strong and it's a big part of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's I'm super stoked to actually have had the opportunity. And where it began was I used to, when I was competing, I was riding KTMs, and it's real hard to make a mark when you're racing a large manufacturer, because we're in Canada, we're racing locally. It's tough. A brand called Husaberg was kind of coming into the picture, and KTM had purchased them. They're a Swedish company, and so I ended up, riding for them through Leaf Freiberger, has like deep roots in the Husaberg world. Anyways, they ended up, when KTM bought them, they ended up developing a brand new bike, and so that was my first foray with Husaberg, was on this new bike. It was very KTM-ish, but it had like this crazy 70-degree engine on it and some really unique design attributes to it. And what I found was that like I could actually make an impact riding that and showcasing it through, back then it wasn't even social media. We were still doing like press releases, and you'd kind of get on the interweb in a week or two time or whatever. But that's why we did all these really large international events, because we could really make a mark and showcase our sponsors and the brands that we're using. And so having gone through that process, all of a sudden we sold through the dealership that I was riding with, A&E Motorsports in Brooks, they sold like 120, 150 of these units, and they were like the biggest, dealer in North America and almost the world. And I like to attribute that we were able to kind of spur that on a little bit. Obviously, it wasn't all us, but we were able to make a mark. And so that was something I was, always had in the back of my mind. I'm like, man, we could really, like, we could sway the needle with what we were doing. And so when Gas, which was purchased by KTM, I'm like, all right, this is my chance again to kind of do this all over again. And so that was where that relationship started. I felt like I could really make a difference in the company, because I'm not really one to take support and help if I can't really move the needle and influence people and support the people that are supporting me. So yeah, started working with Gas, and they're fantastic relationship, and we still have like super open communications. They were able to help me build what's called the Rad Academy, which is a totally electric platform for teaching kids how to learn to ride. So that was fantastic, and we continue to just build different programs. I do a lot of ambassador stuff with them. So yeah, it's been really fantastic, because it's kind of a give take relationship where it's like, hey, I can do this for you. I can help you out, like the demo rides, instead of just having to, gas provide all the staff. They're able to bring their ambassadors in, and I'm one of those people that's lucky enough to get to go to those events, and I can speak to the brand. I know exactly what it's all about. And so yeah, that's a really cool way for me to be able to give back to the people that are supporting me.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, it's funny. I think, I hadn't ever really realized your relationship with Husberg. And, it's funny in Alberta that you were saying that, kind of took off here a little bit, and you still see a bunch of those. You can find them on Kijiji and stuff like that. Like, these old bikes, and, where are these coming from?
Yeah, I know. They're
Brooks.
classic bikes. Yeah, no, I mean, they're awesome. I mean, I loved it when that bike came out. It was a really awesome bike. I fell in love with it and rode them for years. It's funny, actually. Lee just bought one of these things. Like, they were kind of circa, like, I think they kind of, KTM stopped making Husabergs when they bought Husqvarna, which was sort of like 2013, 2014. And anyways, he sold his brand new Husqvarna, which is like a 2021, 2022 motorcycle, which is, I mean, motorcycles have come away in 10, 12 years. He sold his bike because he had an opportunity to buy an old Husaberg. And then he's riding around this thing like, dude, like, it was an awesome bike back in the day. It's kind of a dinosaur relic now, and he just loves it. He just loves the Swedish heritage. It still works okay. It gets him by, and he's happy on it. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
You could say he's an outlier.
Yeah, totally. He's an outlier. Yeah, exactly.
He called me. I don't remember exactly when he bought that bike, but I remember when he called, and he was looking to see if we had any parts. He's like, yeah, it's for this. And what's the model? Is it what are they back? Who's the
FX 450?
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, it's an FX 450. And so I look it up, and I grab the part numbers for a Husqvarna FX 450, because I'm like, oh, cool, new bike. And so I'm like, yeah, I'll get these parts in. And he's like, oh, just it's a Husberg. I was like, pardon me? It's a what now? You sold your new bike to buy an old bike? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, can't help you. I just was when you were talking about coaching, I was like thinking about what the weirdest, wildest moments you kind of run into coaching somebody. Like if somebody's bike ended up 10 feet in a tree. What's any weird things happen like that when you're out doing some coaching?
Yeah, I mean, luckily enough, I haven't had that many of those experiences. I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of like what a rider can do and what a rider can't. But yeah, I did have an experience last spring. It was pretty gnarly. And it happened on several occasions. Actually, it was kind of a multiple day thing, and just blew me away. I had a guy that came out. His bike wasn't running very well, so I'm like, all right, cool, man. How about you just take my bike? And I had a spare bike, and you can try this. And he was used to riding a 4-stroke, and my bike was a 2-stroke 300, and it's a brand new 2023 gas EC 300, like super easy to ride. Super easy to get along with, but if you kind of get on the throttle, she starts to pick up and go pretty good. And he wasn't quite used to that because he was on a tamer 4-stroke, and so anyways, we were working on doing some hills and stuff like that, and just out of the side of my peripheral, I seen a bike flying through the air and a guy flying through the air, and I was like, oh shoot, this is not good. Like, so I run over there, and I think his helmet like blew off, and
oh my god.
and I'm like, okay, the bike was like twisted, the clutch master was broken right off. He smoked a tree like really, really hard. And of course, like I don't care about the bike, I just cared about him, and he ended up getting up and he was okay. But I was like, man, like just like how quick things can happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, coaching, you have to be on your toes all the time. And really, I learn as these things happen, you kind of look to, there's little giveaways here and there, and you don't really get that if you just don't have experiences like that. It's same as racing, right? If you crash over jumps, you can kind of evaluate and understand like why that happened. So yeah, I mean, it's always there's always the progression in learning for sure, even as a student and a coach. So
Yeah.
So I would say that was probably one of my hairiest times I've had so far coaching.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
What
you must have something in mind then if you're asking me.
No, that was just curiosity. I was actually really trying to think of something that I've come across, but the only thing that like instantly comes to mind are like those moments that are like, holy crap, is when I used to work for KTM, I was doing all those demo rides, but there were street demo rides, which was mildly more terrifying than dirt. Now, I wasn't by no means training or coaching people, but I just remember seeing people like riding street bikes that maybe perhaps they had limited experience trying to do so. And we were like just outside of downtown Calgary, and the light turns green, and I'm leading the charge. Actually, I was following the charge this time, and this gal pulls a full 12 o'clock wheelie by accident on a street bike all the way through the intersection down in Calgary, and she pulled it off. She somehow survived, but I was shitting bricks at that moment.
Yeah.
But is that how you met? Is that when you met Courtney?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Courtney,
me.
nice wheelie. No, yeah, I can't think of any crazy. I mean, I'm sure a ton of stuff has happened, but nothing comes to my head at the moment. But I was just curious because you've been doing so much training on of all aspects, new riders and stuff like that too. So, do you at all remember the first time we ever rode together? When I first transitioned from motocross, I believe you and Paul were going riding, and Paul invited me. I'm trying to remember when that was or where we went. It would have been in like 2012 or 13.
Yeah.
13. But I'm trying to think of the ride we did. If it was, because I just know when I first started off-road with you guys, and it's like there's some pretty crazy stuff out in the Alberta woods. And I remember asking Paul, and I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this stuff. Like, you guys are wild. Like, what if I can't make it? How do I get home? He's like, I don't know. He's like, we've never not been able to make it, so you have no choice. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. There's I mean, that's a whole nother episode of, you know, and I'm sure everybody has these stories of just like the adversity you have to go through when you're on those rides. But you know, what I always find from it is it always teaches you something, and you know, it's something you can share with your buddies forever. Like you'll never forget that kind of stuff, you know. And so
all I remember is whatever ride it was, I did it again afterwards, and I got a flat tire. And that's when I realized that if you get a flat tire on an 18-inch wheel, it's a long ways home.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But I learned a lot, you know. I learned a lot of stuff from you guys coming through, and that was cool. I remember being like the slowest turd when I first started riding with you guys in the woods, and like when I could start seeing the dust settle before I got through that section, I was like, all right, here we go, I'm coming. And yeah, it was really good. So I really appreciated the way you guys took me under your wings when I first came into off road, because I was I would have been a lost, lonely boy without the guidance of you guys and that attitude of, well, you know, even though it's like hardcore, it's like you got to make it. And so, and then like the skill sets that you teach, like the crossover and stuff like that, it literally shaped everything I do now. Like for how I learned from you guys and how I had to like manipulate my mind from my motocross skills to my off-road skills is kind of how I built my own like understanding and platform for all the coaching that I've done in the last 10 years. So you should have made me sign a royalty check back then.
No. I mean, it goes both ways because, you know, I watch you motocrossing, and you know, I'm like, man, how does he do that? You know, and I'm the kind of person that just needs to analyze it. So, you know, I'll take videos or I'll watch Instagram, and my kids do it as well. And I mean, you know, I've told you this before. You're always something I really looked up to as far as your skill level on a motocross bike. And I'm like, man, if we could just be like Jared and do what he does, we'd be really good motocrossers, you know. So it goes both ways, right? It's I don't know. Are we just weird or I don't know. It's just, I think it's just a passion that comes through. You need to be your best, and you do whatever it takes to be the best. And you can kind of latch on to somebody and see somebody that's doing something different. And you're like, oh man, like I need to figure that out, you know, like
Yeah,
that's,
for sure.
yeah.
It's actually really funny that like, you know, if you think of like a typical like movie or TV show relationship where the guy's sitting on his phone and the girl's like, yo, like get off your phone and pay attention to me. Like that often will happen with us in both directions. And I'm like, no, hold on. Like I just need to watch Garcia do this corner. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. She's like, oh, okay. I get it. And like
Yeah.
30 minutes later, like, what are you doing? I'm like watching the exact same video in slow motion over and over again.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Noel, I don't know. Maybe your listeners are like, oh, these guys are boring. It's talking about like analyzing each other's riding skills and watching YouTubes over and over. But I don't know. Maybe your audience is gone, oh yeah, I do the same thing. Or maybe they're like, what a bunch of doofuses.
Oh, that's funny. But that's how progression starts and how progression happens, right?
Yeah.
And it is. It's about progression. So
yeah.
You know, one thing you never prepared me for, Shane, as a learning, when I learned from you the specialty tricks in the off-road, was what substance or leaves in the woods are best for getting gasoline off your junk. And that may sound random, but when Shane and I were at the corduroy, he probably noticed at some point that I disappeared when we were riding together through this Jeep trail, because my dry brake had come apart and put about 10 liters of fuel on my junk. And I don't know if you've ever felt a burn before like that, but I was like dry humping the leaves, like trying to I cut my underwear off.
Are you saying that Shane helped you with something to not make it burn?
No, Shane was leading our trail ride, and I disappeared in the woods because I was having a burning fit in the if he would have been behind me, he would have saw me running around the woods with my pants on my ankles dancing. And I emptied my Camelback, and I don't know, this is a sidebar huge, but I'm sure it's happening.
What was the cure?
Well, sounds weird, but my Camelback, I couldn't get enough water flow, so I had to like fill my mouth with my water and then empty it onto my junk from my mouth. So I was like spitting on myself essentially for about 2 liters. That sounds weird.
I think we just found the highlight, like one of the audio highlights for the show.
Oh yeah. I didn't know how to say it.
I heard that milk works well, so maybe carrying another bladder of milk in your Camelback.
Oh,
or
see?
I mean, if you wanted to, I would have tried to pee on you to see if it would have neutralized it or something.
Neutralized it. Well, you left me out
I don't
there.
know.
Burn.
I heard that peeing on people works on certain things.
For like infection or cuts, but not burns. And I know that because one time I accidentally, long story short, but bear sprayed myself, and the only thing that would take the burn off my face was yogurt. So.
Oh.
What? Yogurt?
Well, like yogurt was all I had, or milk, right? Milk base, yeah.
This really took an unexpected turn, but I love it.
I didn't really. Some of the memories I didn't know how to bring it up, but I figured I should probably learn for the next time that happens.
For sure.
Oh man.
But I did, yeah.
Get us back on track.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, somebody get me back on track.
I don't even know how, but this is fantastic. Jared brought up as we were chatting before the show that, he wanted to get your take and, maybe have a quick discussion about, what's your take on race management and, growing the sport and professionalizing. Is that kind of paraphrasing, Jared, what you wanted?
Yeah, no, that for sure. I think Shane has, a lot of good insight on that, and maybe what he sees for the future. What you see for the future in racing in Canada, what we can take to it, kind of where the direction of the market share with off-road bikes is going. National series, stuff like that is. What do you think is possible, and what direction are we headed?
Yeah, I'm torn because I've been in it for a long time and I've seen a lot of different things tried and nothing really seems to stick, so it's just I wish we could have something where you have your local series, your clubs and stuff like that do events, and then you have a provincial series, and that provincial series leads to a national series, and then you take those top national riders and you take them to an international series. Like, that's the way that sport works, and it's proven over and over again by stick and ball sports and even BMX, and that's how a lot of nations do it. If you look at the US, they kind of, it's, again, even the US is disjointed because it's, the expanse of the land that we have to use is like, our worst enemy, because how do you travel, from east to west and west to east and kind of meet in the middle and stuff like that. So it's a really difficult thing to do. But for me, I think that's something that would be, the best. In Alberta, trying to maximize the potential of the participants that we have would be, something that I'm always want to kind of bring to the forefront, and, trying to have everybody that's interested in racing together.
Yeah.
And in Western Canada, doing the same thing. And then, maybe having the Eastern Canada do the same thing, and then kind of meeting in the middle somewhere to kind of have a national championship or something like that. I think those are, things that would be awesome. And I think once we have and I'm hoping that we have a federation that'll eventually enable some of that for us. Not having that federation is kind of a sticking point, because we have all kinds of people that and organizations just like you guys, right? You can go out and you can get insurance, you can sanction your own series. It's no big deal. It's you can do it, and there's more and more of them popping up. And but if we want to bring the sport to a higher level, we got to be looking at a national championship and then being able to send those riders that are excelling to international events and showing what Canada has. So yeah, it's a ways away, but I think things are in motion that maybe looking like, sometime in the near future, hopefully it'll kind of come back around to that. And that's my hope anyways. But yeah, I mean, I think what you guys are doing is awesome. Like, trying to bring a little bit of professionalism to the events, getting people super stoked about it, getting those kids out there watching the pros do what they do and showcase what they can do, and making it a fun family type atmosphere at the same time, and providing like really cool incentives to people to come out and race and do what they love. Like, I think that's the more we can grow and have something that's super well organized and yeah, just something that you would look forward to going to every weekend. And for a parent, it's not like, oh my God, I gotta go do this, and it's gonna take me all day or all weekend to do it. And I don't know what the heck happened at that event because, well, we just don't know nothing and that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of ways that we can improve what we're doing locally, and hopefully kind of continue to build what you guys are doing and kind of take it, even maybe, within Western Canada and eventually, Eastern Canada, or share that passion that you guys have with, some of the Eastern series, and eventually bring something back that, bonds all of Canada together as the national series. I think that would be really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, have a sort of, maybe not exactly the same, but to paraphrase from Jared, a benchmark kind of format for how we race, in the enduro cross country world national.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are really, really, really good ideas. And I think that's I actually took quite a bit from that. So thanks for that. That's awesome. I appreciate that.
For sure.
Well, I know we're running up against the end of time, but the one thing I want to hear is, you've traveled internationally, you've raced internationally, and what's the weirdest Euro story you have?
Ooh, top the 6 days.
Yeah.
There's so many.
I mean, things must get weird
stuff. Yeah.
I'm really
actually, you're right. You like my time in Romania. So I went there 2 years back to back, and I've seen a lot of interesting stuff. And I actually, what I actually think about it is, I love 6 days, and I've had great adventures there, but the 2 times I was in Romania, like, it made me like learn a lot about myself, because I was basically torturing myself to an extent where I didn't think I could actually like function anymore. And just being able to like work past that. You do the same thing at 6 days. You torture yourself, really, you do. And mentally and physically, and you learn all kinds of things about what you can actually do. And I've taken a lot of those learnings going forward, and that's how I kind of live my life now, is knowing that, hey, like, there's nothing that'll stop me in my tracks. I can kind of conquer everything. But in Romania, the very first time we got there, we were driving in. We ended up getting Husaberg support through the Husaberg importer, who is an English guy, and we had spent some time. Super awesome guy, and we're just kind of pulling into the paddock. And we're like literally going like 10 kilometers an hour. And this young kid ran in between a couple of cars, and the Husaberg importer guy actually hit this poor kid. And yeah, it was horrible. Like, ran right over the poor guy. The kid survived and everything was okay, but that was just like all of a sudden eye opener in another country. And then all of a sudden, shit went sideways. There was police. There was people taking our passports. There was like we were getting interrogated. Like it was insane. And yeah, I'll never forget that time. On that same trip, actually, I ended up dislocating my finger in the prologue, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, so doctors are trying to put it in. They couldn't put it in on site. So this leads me to my next story is I had to go to a Romanian hospital, which was interesting and scary all at the same time. And it was like super dark and kind of like desolate in this hospital. And anyways, they ended up doing what they needed to do. They gave me some medication or whatever to relax and pop my finger back in. But yeah, just stories like that, like you just don't forget them because it's just so not normal here. Yeah, so I would say that's kind of a tidbit, the tip of the iceberg from some of the stories that I would have for sure.
Well, maybe we're gonna have to get together again and get a few more of those stories out of you.
For sure.
Shane, this was awesome. I was really looking forward to having you on here. I just respect the hell out of you and really appreciate, the things you do for the sport, your history in the sport, and, your passion for everything. And that's a word that keeps coming up across all these episodes is passion. And, you're one of those guys. So thank you.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate being on and again, right back at you guys for being able to start a podcast and kind of highlighting, such an awesome sport in the scene and bringing it to people that may not know that much about it or people that are super passionate about it and kind of want to follow along on all the awesome guests that you guys are bringing on. So good on you guys.
Thanks,
yeah,
man.
thank you, Shane. We appreciate it. And Jared and I learned some new things about you as well, and we're very excited for the season to commence with us all.
Heck yeah, let's get rid of this snow and we'll be on the dirt in no time flat.
Yes.
Deal.
Right on. Shane Cuthbertson, ladies and gentlemen. And just so where can people follow you and Rad 2.0 and all your exploits?
Yeah, basically Instagram, Facebook, Rad 2.0. My own personal handle is Shane Cuthbertson, but I really suck at that, updating that. And luckily I have a couple of youngsters under my wing that are my proteges. So they do most of my social media, which is way more up to date on the Rad 2.0 stuff. And then we also have a website, Rad 2.0 or rad20.ca as well, if you're looking for any information on the events or coaching that we do.
Awesome. Well, thanks again and really appreciate your time.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you.